let's close things out with our Pens poll. I'm not going to call it a weekly Pens poll because I'm horrible about putting these out weekly, but we did put out a poll this week, and we asked which depth forward has the highest upside in the 2024-25 season. You voted. We'll discuss. Blake Lizotte came in with an overwhelming majority of the votes, 49% of the vote going to Blake Lizotte, the newest Pittsburgh Penguin. Jesse Puljujarvi got 30% of the vote, which means that, similar to me, a lot of people out there are saying, hey, let's not forget about Puljujarvi. Sam Poulin gets 17% of the vote, and I don't know why I put Emil Bemstrom in this one. It was kind of rude of me. He gets 4%. I tallied the total. That is 15 total votes for Emil Bemstrom. So he has a nice little fan club out there. But outside of Bemstrom, because I know that's not going to be your answer unless you want to shock the world here, which forward do you think has the highest upside of the four, probably three?
Highest upside is going to be Blake Lizotte. If you want me to chat on Bemstrom for a second, I think he has the most question marks because there could be something, maybe, I don't know, I doubt it, there. But Blake Lizotte's going to be the obvious answer, hence why it was an overwhelming majority here. Just because, he's got a ton of upside joining the team. He's going to be in the lineup. That's one thing you can almost guarantee that the other three on this list straight up cannot, that they will be, if they will be in the lineup. So he's going to have the highest upside by sheer playing the closest to 82 games out of the four of them. Coming into a new system, he already has his goal pretty much set, and that is be that depth forward that's going to play the entire 200 feet, play to the defensive mindset that the Penguins bottom six usually has, but then chip in a goal, chip in a few points as much as possible every now and again. And I just think it's going to be that fresh face feeling. It is guys coming with bigger expectations. We haven't seen it before. Let's see what he can bring, rather than, we know Puljujarvi barely gets ice time. We know Sam Poulin might not even make the lineup yet. And we know Emil Bemstrom is going to be Emil Bemstrom. So that's sort of how I saw this playing out.
Yeah, when I look at upside, it is between the top two, right? It is between Lizotte and Puljujarvi because Sam Poulin's played 6 NHL games. You really don't know where he fits here because we talked a lot this offseason already. I mean, especially since July 1st, the center ice position is a tough one to crack in Pittsburgh. They brought in Kevin Hayes, who we just talked about. They have Noel Acciari, who Kyle Dubas is in love with. They have Lars Eller as well. They brought in, Ponomarev, who is a center. So the center ice position for Poulin is not going to be easy to get into. But then you look at the bottom six, and when it comes to wingers, it's crowded. We mentioned these four. There's Puustinen, there's O'Connor, there's Koivunen who comes into that as well. And then there's the floating shadow of Braden Yeager that is looming and potentially ready to come into the light. So there's a lot in front of Sam Poulin. Now, he was one of the more impressive players when he was healthy last year in Wilkes-Barre. So I think there's an opportunity, but he just needs to prove that he's not that, to borrow a baseball reference here, he needs to prove that he's not a quad A player, that he's not a guy that's great in the minor leagues, but can't just translate it to the majors and in the professional leagues and the NHL. So I think there's still, as you mentioned, questions with Bemstrom, but questions with Sam Poulin as well. Between Puljujarvi and Lizotte, I'll go Puljujarvi in this one, because I do think the ceiling is a little bit higher. Lizotte is younger. I think Lizotte hasn't really gotten to his ceiling. I think Puljujarvi may have, but his ceiling was 15 goals. And that's a guy who I think the Penguins might be comfortable putting on their third line. I don't know what led to his healthy scratches at certain points last year. It was a little confusing because I thought that when he was out there, he was playing pretty well. It wasn't perfect hockey, but this was the Pittsburgh Penguins of last year. A lot of the times they weren't playing perfect hockey. In fact, most of the time they weren't playing perfect hockey. So I liked what I saw from Puljujarvi, and I think that he has a capability of playing higher in the lineup. We saw last year, he played a couple of shifts, played a couple of games in the top six as well. And I think that still holds true, especially the further away he gets from that double hip surgery that he had a couple off seasons ago, or last off season, I guess it would be. So I'm going to say Puljujarvi, but not because I don't like Blake Lizotte. I just think Puljujarvi has a chance to move up in the lineup a little bit faster than Lizotte, which I think automatically raises his ceiling.
Yeah, and Puljujarvi's had a fascinating season. Jumping from the rehab to the AHL rehab stint, then into the lineup, then out of the lineup, and then in top 6, out,
Yeah.
in, and productive every time he's been in to cap off. How many games did he even play? Like 10?
He probably played over 20 games, but
it doesn't, and that's the thing, it doesn't feel like it because of how long he was here sitting in the press box. Or
22 games last year, so
played,
about a quarter of a season.
Wow. And it doesn't feel like it at all. I think mostly because you remember, that's why I said 10. He has 4 points. I remember all 4 of those points sticking out pretty nicely.
Yeah.
But only 22 games that's surprisingly high for what it felt like.
Yeah.
So maybe he exceeds that this year. I would assume he does now that, like you said, the hip surgery is more in the past. Maybe he comes in with a bit more oomph into preseason and training camp. I have higher expectations for him too, so I'd like to see where it can go. Either way, the fact that at any given moment, 2 of the names that were on this poll here should be in the lineup at once, maybe 3, maybe all 4 if things go a certain way. Yikes.
Yeah.
But 2 to 3 of them being in the lineup at any given night, that's good, I'd say. I mean, we know Blake Lizotte has the overwhelming majority of the votes here for good reason. Puljujarvi finishing in second, and for all the reasons you gave, why that should also be good. Those are at least 2 solid pieces to have in the lineup. We'll see if Bemstrom can bring anything at all, if he even makes it in. And then if Sam Poulin cracks the roster, he's there for a reason then.
Yeah.
We know there's a reason why he's there. So, if anything, I'd say 3 of the 4 names are solid pieces to the lineup. We'll see if the 4th can contribute at all. And we'll see if it can be a 4-piece there that even make the lineup. But overall, those top 2 we're discussing, having those 2 in the lineup at once, as long as they're playing, that's a good addition. That's a good, solid ground to build the bottom 6 on, even though you're building it other ways. But you get what I'm saying. Good to have them in. Good pieces.
Even if all 4 of these guys are in the lineup, and I understand that the hope is that, it wouldn't be a pretty picture, but it's better than having Matthew Phillips in the lineup.
Remember those 3 games?
It's better than having Jansen Harkins in the lineup. And I'm not going to talk crap on Jeff Carter because he scored more than 10 goals last year, and he's retired. He played and did his job.
Yep.
That's all you can say about Jeff Carter. But it's better than Phillips. It's better than Harkins, certainly, who is signed, by the way. So the long national nightmare is over. You don't have to worry about Sully's pet coming back to Pittsburgh. But
he's a Dumoulin's teammate now. Speak of the Ducks.
Oh my Lord! I mean that mullet in Anaheim, it'll fit right in there with the Zegrases of the world and the Mason McTavishes of the world. So, best of luck to him out there in Southern California. He's certainly going to have better weather than us here in the northeastern part of the country. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to see Puljujarvi in training camp. And I think that's a big thing because last year he jumped on a moving train. He can actually build up with the rest of the team this year. And I think that is also a pretty important factor to put in here as well. So